All right, so we'll continue this to April 15th. Warning, I have to break before 3 on April 15th. Hopefully we won't have a problem with that. I'm sorry, I didn't note that for you before. We'll start at 9 on the 15th. We have to
April
break.
15th, 9 to 3. Yeah, April 15th, 9 to 3.
All right. Are we ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Bingo, are you alone in the room?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have anything in front of you?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, you may proceed, Attorney Krenitsky.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Bingo, I'm next going to show you Exhibit 57. This photograph, this image is stamped 7/25/2019. Do you recall visiting the property on or around that time?
You know, I don't really know the dates that my wife and I stopped by, but no, I couldn't tell you the exact dates.
I'm not asking for the exact. Is this how let me ask you this. This fence here, you see my cursor, sir,
Yes,
at the bottom of the photo?
yes,
Is this the breed fence along the Morose property line?
it appears to be, yes.
And is this the trees that you were describing as pushing out on the fence?
Objection, Your Honor.
I get,
What's the objection?
The objection is he was discussing another photograph when he said trees pushing out on the fence.
Yes, and that's why he's being asked about this photograph. Overruled.
It's not terrible.
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Bingo, these the vegetation that you described in the earlier exhibit as pushing out on the fence?
say that again, please?
Do you see how the fence in this photograph, this section,
Yes,
is pushed over a bit, it appears?
that's correct.
Why that is that you thought it came from the tree on the other side of the fence was pushing it in the earlier photograph. Does that appear to be the same trees that was pushing on it?
I believe the other photo showed the tree to the right that has the broken stem on it.
This one here?
Yes,
So you believe that's the tree that was pushing on the fence in the other photograph?
I believe so, yes.
But this is that same section of fence, one of the same sections we were looking at in the other photograph, correct?
That's correct.
Objection.
Yeah, okay.
Overruled.
And I'm showing you over here. Do you see where my cursor is now, sir?
I do.
Does this appear to be that a section of the fence that you understood Morose had constructed at some point in time in that area?
Correct.
And this is the larger fence that is presently there that you don't recall being installed earlier. Is that a fair statement?
That is correct.
And does it appear that this photograph is taken by the photographer standing at the side of the former breed building?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Mhm.
You can answer.
My question, sir?
Do you have the question, Mr. Bingo?
Oh, I'm sorry, could you say the question again? I missed
My
it.
question is, would you agree that the photographer for this photo was standing on the side of the former Breed building
Yes,
towards the Morose property, correct?
the what?
Facing towards Hardy Street. They were standing
That's
at the,
correct. Yeah, with his back toward the Breed structure. Yes.
okay.
Yep.
Your Honor, I would move to admit, oh, actually, it's already admitted, excuse me, 57. I'm gonna go next to Exhibit 111. Which we were looking at a little while ago. Recall this picture?
Yes.
And I wanted to point out, ask you about a couple of other things on this picture. If you see where in the background where my cursor is, you see where my cursor is, sir?
I do.
And behind the vegetation, do you see there appears to be an object there?
Yes.
Was there a plastic enclosure at the entrance to the Fitch or to the Breed building at some point in time?
You're gonna have to speak up a little bit louder. I honestly can't hear you.
Sure, I apologize. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So where I'm pointing, I understand that there was a plastic enclosure to the entrance of Dr. Breed's offices. Is this the plastic enclosure that I'm pointing to?
It appears to be, yes.
And that plastic enclosure was later replaced by a different enclosure.
That is correct.
Do you know when that occurred?
That occurred around 1980, about 88, 89. It was after the town granted us permission to put in those 2 ramps and enclose them.
Right. So this picture, would you agree with me, is definitely taken before the 2 ramps that were covered were installed?
Yes.
And at this time, looking from this perspective, would you agree with me that you can see right through the fence to see where I'm pointing with the cursor, to see the former Breed building through the fence pickets?
Yes.
Now, you described your maintenance at the property as being year-round, correct?
That's correct.
You removed snow, you shoveled it.
Correct.
Now, in the fall, would you pick up leaves?
No.
Would anyone pick up leaves on your behalf?
No.
So around in the Dr. Breed's parking lot, you wouldn't pick up leaves?
No, the wind would blow them away. We didn't pick up leaves. No.
Well, that's fortunate. Pick up leaves. How about anywhere else in the property? How about in the field? Did you have to pick up leaves there?
No.
So you just let the nature take its course with the leaves. Fair statement?
Fair statement.
Same thing with Dr. Breed. You didn't observe him picking up leaves.
Correct.
I'm going to show you next. Or actually first, looking at the vegetation in this photograph. Okay, you see where I'm pointing? But on the other side of the Morose fence onto the Welcher Stickney lot. You see that, sir?
Yes.
Is the condition of the vegetation in this photograph consistent with winter conditions when the leaves had fallen?
Looks more like it was in the fall, in the spring.
Or the spring, when leaves are up? I should I should clarify my question. That's a good point. So when the leaves were off the trees and they had fallen until they grew back, is this in the sometime before 1988, 89, when the enclosure went up? Is this how it would look when the leaves were off the trees?
Yeah, yeah. To the best of my memory, didn't really spend a lot of, yes, yes.
And next, I'm going to ask you about Exhibit 9. So I'm showing you this photo that you had earlier looked at in your direct examination. Do you recall this?
I do.
And this appears to be, again, when there aren't leaves on the trees. Fair statement?
Yes,
It appears that there's snow on the ground.
correct.
Correct.
Yeah, correct.
And you described this area here as the berm, the dirt that your father-in-law had put there to prevent people from driving out here. Is that a fair statement?
Yes,
To your memory, for the entire time that the berm was located on the Welch Stickney lot, this was the location of it. Is that a fair statement?
yes,
And it moved when the sewer installation was done. Is that a fair statement?
yes.
Do you recall that after the sewer project, a guardrail was installed on Hardy Street?
I don't recall.
Do you know if there is presently a guardrail along Hardy Street on the Welch, before the Welch Stickney lot?
I do not know.
Do you recall having any conversations with the contractor doing the work along for the sewer installation, to put the guardrail where the berm was located?
No.
And just to be clear about Exhibit 10, you described that feature we were looking at, the berm, as being, you described it as being on further out from this big black pipe, correct?
That's correct.
And I believe you described it as being beyond the orange barrel. It's the orange barrel, as we're looking at the photo, to the right of the black pipe that you were talking about.
To the right
Object.
of the pipe.
Objection, that's a misstatement of the evidence.
I think it was, the berm was behind the orange barrel. To the right of the black pipe and behind the orange barrel. Is that right, Mr. Bingle?
To the right of the cement pipe, correct.
Whoops, excuse me.
Yeah, that's another photo. You have two
This is
photos.
the same photo,
It's the
just
same
with
one.
my view. Give me 1 second, I can see.
No, you're good. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'm next going to direct you. I want to ask you one other question about this photo. So if the berm is located past this black pipe, and you described your maintenance as being along, well, first you described your maintenance, cutting the grass, is along the tree line. Is that a fair statement?
Yes,
And that's where, roughly where my cursor is?
correct,
Go down?
correct.
And I believe you described this area from the point you cut to the garage is 10 feet.
I said approximately 10 feet. It could have been 50, an absolute approximation.
But it could have been more, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes.
And
much
what
more.
but the distance, the actual distance is from whatever the measurement may be, from roughly where the cursor is to the garage. Is that a fair statement?
Right. Yes.
Thank you. I'm next going to go to Exhibit 117. I'm showing you this photograph. Did you visit the property at any time and observe this tree lying out in the field, cut down?
No. Not that I know.
Are you aware of Morose cutting down a tree? This-
Objection, Your Honor.
What's the objection?
The objection is he just said he doesn't have any personal knowledge about the photograph itself.
This is a different question, overruled. Go ahead.
Are you aware of Morose cutting down this tree at any time?
No.
Do you recall visiting the field and walking in the field in 2004 or thereabout?
I don't know the year, but I mean, I was on the property a few times over the last several years, but I don't know if it was 2004. We went there a couple times a year. Once a
And-
year,
and-
twice a year.
Fair to say, looking at this photo, you can't tell what year it is.
Correct.
You could tell that it appears to be springtime because there's vegetation. Is that a fair statement? See the forsythia in bloom?
Yeah, it could be, yeah, it's all in full bloom. I don't know what the season is. I really don't know what the
It's not,
season is.
would you care to say it's not winter?
It's not winter.
And this area, do you recognize this to be the Morose garage?
Correct,
It's before it was sided, correct?
correct.
And you see this area here?
I do,
That's lawn area, correct?
correct.
It's grass that's been planted, correct?
Objection. Calls for speculation that it was planted.
Sustained. Go ahead.
You testified that the land along Hardy Street, the characteristics changed after the sewer project. Is that a fair statement?
Yes,
And you're aware that the sewer project was done in 1990, correct?
I believe it was 90, 91, yes. 92,
And I'm next going to show you Exhibit 60. Actually, we already answered my question about that. I'm going to move to Exhibit 118. I'm showing you this photograph. I believe I'm not sure. Are you aware that at some point in time, the Morose house had a dormer installed?
I don't recall it being built, really. I paid no attention to what was going on the other lot, you know.
Well, I could tell you it was after the ownership by Dr. Breed.
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
But at any time after, so before looking at this photo, have you noticed that there was a dormer on the Morose house?
I see it, yes.
But before looking at this photo that I'm putting in front of you, at any time, were you aware of that?
I've seen this photo before. I
No,
think.
did you ever notice the dormer on the house, leaving aside the photo?
No,
Okay.
Now, with respect to the vegetation that you described as from 1974 forward as being along the garage as being overgrown and thick and dense, is that how you would describe the vegetation along the garage in this photo?
no, well, it's been knocked down. Before it was cut down, it was pretty dense.
But will you agree with me at this time, you would not describe this as dense as you described other photographs? Your statement?
Fair statement.
And the person who took this photograph, they're standing in the field. Is that a fair statement?
Yes,
And you can see the fence here where I'm pointing with the cursor.
yes,
You can see the side of the garage. Fair
yes,
statement?
yes.
And is this how well, I'm going to leave it at that. Let me move to exhibit 120. Showing you this photograph. Now, in this photograph, this area here, next, do you recognize this to be the Morose garage?
Yes,
And this is before it was resided, correct?
correct.
This the Morose driveway, as far as you know?
As far as I know,
And this area next to it, you can see is planted with lawn. Is that correct?
it's grass. Yes,
And do you recognize this? Do you know who this individual is?
no,
And this vegetation that's here, you see where I'm pointing?
I do.
Is this the vegetation that would appear that you described cutting on the other side of along the tree line?
That's correct. I cut the grass, that's correct, along the bush line.
So you never cut these denser bushes that were parallel to the driveway. Is that a fair statement?
It is a fair statement.
Okay, thank you. I'm next going to go to exhibit 103. Now, I'm showing you what's been admitted and purports to be a Google Earth image from 2008. Do you see that?
Yes,
April 9th of 2008.
yes,
That's after your father-in-law sold the property, correct?
correct.
Just going to zoom in a little bit here. You see where my cursor is here?
Yes,
And does this photo show the fence at the back of the Morose property being in its present location?
Objection.
What's the objection?
How would he know if that's in its present location from an aerial view, Your Honor? There's no foundation whatsoever. He's asking him to comment on a 2008 aerial photograph.
Sustain, rephrase the question, please.
Sure. Mr. Bingo, you testified that the fence that was along the rear of the Breed property, that it went straight. Is that a fair statement?
that is a fair statement.
And I'm showing you in this picture, this does not show the fence as being straight. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it is a fair statement.
Thank you. And you were on the property in 2008, correct?
Maybe once or twice. As I told you, I don't remember what dates my wife and I were there. I would say, yeah, maybe once. I don't.
You testified that you specifically remembered there was not a tall fence located on the Morose side of the breed fence. Is that a fair statement in this particular area?
Prior to 2000, during the time that I was on the property, there was no tall fence. After my father sold the property, do not recall ever seeing there was never a high fence when my father-in-law owned the property. And there was never a jog in the fence like there is now. The fence was straight from the end of the parking lot all the way down to the end of the Morose 90-degree corner in the bushes. There was never a jog in the fence.
There was never a jog?
Not like that.
Let's go back to 111.
That's your 90-degree angle.
Saying there's no jog in this fence?
You can't say that was straight from the post to all the way to the left to the end of the parking lot. It was one straight fence line.
Your testimony earlier was that it wasn't there in 2008. It wasn't there.
Objection, Your Honor. Can we go to sidebar for a moment?
Yeah. You may continue, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Bingo. From 1974 to 2000, you never told Morose to remove the garage from the Welcher Stickney lot, correct?
I never did.
You never told Morose during that time to remove any of their fences. Is that a fair statement?
Why would I? That's a fair statement. I never asked them to remove their fence. Yes.
I wanted to ask you about,
If my father-in-law disputed it,
sir, there's no question in front of you. Thank you. I'm going to ask you about Exhibit 1. Have you seen this document before?
yes,
Now, at this corner, you see where the cursor is?
yes,
Are you aware that this is the record or purports to be the record line of the bound of the Morose property?
that's the solid black line, yes,
Solid black line that intersects with the garage?
correct.
And are you aware that they allege to have made use of 1.5 feet over from that line?
Objection, Your Honor.
What's the objection?
He's calling on the witness to determine whether or not the Moroses have made a claim. And the only one the Moroses have made a claim on is the Fitches. There's been no claim made on Breed through Bingo.
So
He
we're gonna find
testified to
out
that
if-
fact.
We're gonna find out if Mr. Bingle knows this or not. That's why he's asked. Overruled.
Sir, are you aware that the distance between the lot line and the area Morose claims to have occupied adversely at this point is 1.5 feet?
No, I'm not aware of it.
You see this dimension here, 1.5 feet,
Yes,
and it gets wider as you move towards Hardy Street?
yes,
Objection, he asked and answered the question, Your Honor.
It's a different question.
This is not a question, this is a comment.
It's a question. But I have to ask you, Attorney Kornitsky, where are you going showing him this plan?
That's about all I wanted to point out, that his testimony, I believe, may have concerned a larger area than the area that the Moroses in
All right, well,
fact.
you can save that for argument. If you
Okay,
have a question on that, go ahead. But,
I have one other question about this plan. Sir, you
Okay.
testified that the distance from where you cut to the garage was about 10 feet. Approximately, you said. Is that a fair statement?
correct.
And that's along this area here, along this side of the Morose property, right?
That's correct.
Okay, sir, I just wanted to ask you, we're done with exhibits. I wanted to ask you about your testimony yesterday about some empty cans that you retrieved from behind the Morose home that were in plastic bags. Okay, do you remember that testimony yesterday?
I do.
You stated that the cans were removed by someone from where they were stored, correct?
Correct.
And you saw a trail, correct?
Of cans,
And you followed that trail, right?
correct.
And the trail led to the side gate into the Morose's backyard, correct?
Incorrect.
You testified that you found the cans in the backyard. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You accessed the Morose backyard to see them there?
I did. Through Hardy Street. I didn't go through any gate.
You went into the backyard, correct?
That's correct.
And you were able from that backyard to look around. Is that a fair statement?
I didn't really look around. I collected the cans and I think I was confronted by Mrs. Morose asking what I was doing there. And I said, I'm retrieving cans that belong to my mother-in-law, and I got the bags and left. I didn't look around in the sense of, looking to see what's there. I got my cans and left.
You looked around enough to find the cans. Is that a fair statement?
No,
Well, you found the cans, didn't you?
Objection, Your Honor. This is argumentative.
Yeah, I really, you can move on from this.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Redirect.
I want to just go back to Exhibit 1.
Do you need help getting that up? Or?
No, I think we can manage at this point, Your Honor, other than pure exhaustion. I think we'll be able to get through this. First of all, Mr. Bingo, welcome back. I'm going to just ask you some quick questions since Attorney Kaninsky was asking you about the line that's approximately 10 feet off of the garage. And I'm going to run my cursor down it. And I'm going to point to this area right here. Do you ever recall seeing a path there, sir, during your occupancy from 1974 to 2000?
Never,
Do you ever recall seeing a path here where the cursor is from 1974 to 2000?
never.
Where's
Do you ever
cursor?
recall?
Where's the cursor? I can't.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. How come
It's a little hard
Mr.
to see.
Kaninsky has a black cursor? I'm sorry.
Oh, a lucky man.
I know. So I'm talking about this area here. Had you ever seen a path in that area?
Never,
Okay. And during your occupancy until 1991, it was your testimony that this area, lawn area maintained by Morose, was completely overgrown, correct?
correct.
And until the sewer was placed in there, that was depicted very close to what the photograph with the excavator in it showed, that it was dense. Is that correct?
Correct.
Mr. Bingo, the triangular area over here is in dispute today, if you can't tell. And you had earlier testified that the fence that's indicated here along was a straight line during 1974 to 2000. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
When, if any time, did you ever notice that triangle after you sold the property?
Say that again.
When, if ever, did you notice that triangle after you sold the property? Can you remember the first time you saw that triangle restated?
I don't recall, but it was never there when my father-in-law owned the land. The fence
Okay.
line was straight. There was no jog at all to either fence line, the black one or my father-in-law's. As I said, I walked in between the fences to clean it up. There was no jog.
You testified earlier that you had absolutely no personal knowledge about the Moroses mowing lawns. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is that testimony still true as I asked this question?
Yes,
You never had an opportunity to see the Moroses mow a lawn, did you, sir?
never once.
Okay. And let's just run quickly through these, and I don't want to belabor the point. The exhibit 60. We're going to go right through these. Exhibit 60. This is a 2015 photograph, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you recognize the scene because you were there for over 25 years.
Correct.
but you don't have any personal knowledge about what is occurring in 2015 from this particular site and this particular advantage, do you?
No,
Okay. And we're going to go to 117. This photograph was about 2004 that the testimony has been. And you were questioned on the lawn area. Do you have any personal knowledge about a lawn area in that general location?
none.
Did you ever see a lawn area during your occupancy from 1974 to 2000?
No,
10. This is the construction easement that has been up and down several times. You testified that the berm was behind the orange barrel.
Exhibit
Correct.
number, please.
I'm sorry, Exhibit 10, Your Honor.
Okay.
You testified that the berm was behind the orange barrel?
yes, on the right-hand side, the barrel on the right side. of the-
Correct.
Correct, yeah.
And it was fairly close to the black structure, is that correct?
Correct,
And you also testified that the vegetation around the black structure was a general depiction of the area at all times from 1974 to 2000. Has that changed?
no,
111. Exhibit 111. This fence was part of your cross-examination, and you testified that it was a 90-degree angle at the corner of the fence.
Objection, Your Honor.
What's the objection?
Just the amount of the leading question on,
Sustained. This is redirect.
Mr. Bingo, how did you describe the corner in this photograph on the left-hand side? And I'll move my cursor over.
without being a surveyor, as close to 90 degrees as I can estimate.
And what is your memory on where the fence went left from that 90-degree angle?
From where your cursor is, it paralleled the building all the way down the property line past the telephone pole, which is at the end of the parking lot.
In the best of your memory, how did you describe that line?
Straight.
Thank you. Sir, there was a lot of discussion about several exhibits, and I want to bring you to Exhibit X. And just to clarify some of your testimony. When you testify about the 90-degree angle and going straight, what's depicted in this photograph?
90-degree angle.
How close is the tree to the fence?
Very close.
Does the tree actually go outside the fence and
Yes.
into the breed property?
Yes.
What do you notice directly at the corner of the post under the little brace? And I'm going to blow this up so you can take a look at it. And I'm going to bring this area in, and I want you to describe what you believe that item is up against the fence.
Looks like a cinder block.
Okay. And we're going to leave this for a second and go to Z.
Z is exhibit 138.
It is 138 now, Exhibit Z. Thank you, Your Honor. And now I want you to take a look at the fence post and tell me if it has migrated away from the tree and the
Objection, Your
block.
Honor. Objection,
Sustained.
Your Honor.
Could you
Sustained.
describe the
It's
fence
objection, Bob.
post? I understand. I'll rephrase the question. He sustained it. I'll rephrase the question. Mr. Bingo, please describe the fence post in relation to the cinder block first.
It has been moved.
Thank you. And please describe the post in relation to the tree. Do you want me to bring you back to X?
No, it's been moved.
Okay. And thank you. And now I'd like to go to W. You see what's been marked as Exhibit W, and it's been up here several times. During your
That's an admitted exhibit, right?
It is.
I believe it is, Your Honor.
Well,
115?
Please use the numbers.
I
The
don't
record is
have
worthless without
I
the
don't-
numbers.
I don't have that.
It's 115.
I'm
Thank you.
sorry. So this has been marked as 115. And again, during your occupancy from about 1974 to 2000, did you ever see this configuration of the fence?
Never.
And quickly to Y, which I don't know whether it's been entered. During your occupancy, was the fence shown in Exhibit Y ever in the configuration it is in now?
No.
Thank you.
Do we know if this is an admitted exhibit or not?
I don't think it is admitted.
Your Honor, again, I intend to move those exhibits in through Fitch, and I'm sorry that they're not being moved over at this time.
You can continue.
Thank you. We talked about, and Attorney Kaninsky talked in length about your relationship to deeds from your father-in-law to Gabrielli. Do you recall your previous testimony on cross-examination?
Yes.
And you're a real estate agent, are you not, sir?
Yes.
Are you or have you ever been the agent for Dr. Breed in any other capacity?
In relation to real estate?
In relation to anything other than a real estate broker?
Yeah, I was the administrator to his eye clinic.
And as a result, had you filed any documents with the Secretary of State's office that you were his agent?
No.
Have you ever been an agent for the acceptance of service of process and legal proceedings?
No.
Relevant to the escrow account that was established for Dr. Breed, it was established during his lifetime, correct?
Correct.
And have you ever seen a statement regarding that escrow account, sir?
No.
Where is that escrow account?
I do not know.
Who has control of that escrow account?
I do not know.
Was your father's estate closed by the probate court?
I
And
believe it was.
And
sorry.
your mother's
Wait,
estate, I mean,
wait,
mother-in-law's
wait.
estate was,
Wait. I didn't hear the answer. Was your father's estate closed?
I believe it was.
Okay.
is your wife currently administering anything in his estate?
No,
Has all the property been distributed from his estate?
yes.
Do you have any idea who's handling the escrow account that Attorney Kaninsky was talking about?
No idea.
Have you ever been sent any correspondence since your father's passing, your father-in-law's passing, about the escrow account?
Have received nothing.
Do you know if anyone has a claim against the escrow account?
I do not know.
Do you believe that you have a realistic expectation of finding this $25,000 in the escrow account?
Yes,
You would hope so, correct?
exactly.
But you haven't been notified that it's forthcoming, correct?
Correct.
There could be other people with claims against it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You haven't been notified about those claims either, correct?
Correct.
All right. And going back to your affidavit, and I'm going to have to bring that up for you, and that was Exhibit 137 entered. I'm sorry, we don't have it. It hasn't hit our screen yet, Your Honor. Could someone bring that up? We can get it with the letter.
It's been
Why?
marked.
I don't know.
Look at Exhibit Y.
Try Y.
Are you looking for the bingo affidavit?
It's G, and now it's 137, I believe.
7 is which one it is.
Great.
Okay, it's C.
I
And
see. Yeah, we got it. I'm sorry.
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry too, Your Honor. Mr. Bingle, who asked you to sign this affidavit?
It might have been Attorney Mills.
And who is Attorney Mills?
He represented my father-in-law in the land dispute.
And your father-in-law was alive when that land dispute was occurring, correct?
Correct.
And there was a number of affidavits signed by your family members, isn't that correct?
Correct.
Do you recall whether or not your wife signed an affidavit?
She did.
And do you recall who else signed affidavits?
My mother-in-law.
Do you recall who made those requests to sign the affidavits?
I think it was Attorney Mills.
Wait, stop. I'm sorry. What's the objection?
It calls for, he's asking about multiple affidavits, asking who asked somebody something. I don't know which affidavit he's speaking about. When the request was made, it just needs more foundation before you get to this hearsay, what calls for a hearsay answer.
You'll need to lay a little more foundation about the other affidavits, Counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did your wife have relatives that signed affidavits, Mr. Bingle?
Yes.
Who are those relatives?
My mother-in-law,
And what was her name?
Betsy Hood Elliott Breed.
And any other relatives sign affidavits in this case that you have personal knowledge of?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, I'm going to go back to your affidavit, sir, and we're going to focus in on the third paragraph that you were queried on. And could you just quickly read that into the record?
Don't, just tell me, give your question, please.
Okay. It says no other person has ever made any claim to the subject property, which was continuously occupied and maintained by Dr. Breed. When you made that statement, had Mr. Morose approached you and made a claim to the property?
No,
Objection, Your Honor.
What's the objection?
The leading question. It's redirect.
Who,
Oh, stop. You ought to wait for me to rule on it there, counsel.
I'm sorry, there's a delay in the,
I'm overruling the objection. So take a
Okay.
pause. It's okay.
all right, thank you, Your Honor. And had Mrs. Morose ever made a claim to you on the property, sir?
not to my knowledge.
Had any person during your occupancy from about 74 to 2000 approached you personally and said, I am claiming a piece of this property, Mr. Bingle?
Never. No one.
So when you make this statement, you're making it under the pains and penalties of perjury that you received no claims personally.
Exactly.
Thank you. Let's move back on to the Exhibit 15. This is the A&R plan, and I don't think I can get it to go in any other direction. But I'm going to point you to this structure right here. Do you see that structure, sir?
Yes.
Would you describe that structure as being predominantly on the Welch-Stickney lot or predominantly on the Morose lot?
On the Stickney lot.
I hear everyone refer to it as the Morose garage. Do you know if Dr. Breed ever conveyed his interest in that garage to Mr. Morose? Do you have any personal knowledge of that?
Objection, Your Honor.
No.
Sustained. Why
Okay,
are we talking about,
just
I don't-
asking. I understand, Your Honor. I'll get off
you
of it.
already conceded the garage and the fence.
I did, Your Honor, and I was just asking relative to the claim. So if it's not relevant, I'll withdraw the question.
Go ahead, continue now. We can move
This
on.
plan in itself does not transmit a claim of ownership.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Does this plan transmit an ownership interest in the garage, this plan, Mr. Bingle?
Objection, Your
Sustained.
Honor.
Sustained.
Okay, I'll get off of that too. Thank you, Your Honor. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay, recross.
I just have very briefly, Your Honor, one thing. I just have one question for you, Mr. Bingo. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Now, you described the fence. I'm showing you on Exhibit 1. Is this the wood fence that you understand is described as the Breed fence?
That's correct.
Okay. And you said it ran perfectly straight. Is that correct?
How I would,
Objection. That is a mischaracterization. He did not say perfectly, Your Honor.
Leave out the perfectly and ask the question again.
You said that this fence ran a straight line from this end of the property where my cursor is to where it ended. Is that what you testified to?
I believe it went further down than where it shows on this plan.
For the sections that are shown on this plan, okay? Is it a fair characterization of your prior testimony that you said, with respect to these areas, that it ran straight?
It ran straight. Exactly.
Do you see,
I've got an Adobe Flash player screen.
Oh, you don't see the plan now?
Correct. I do not see the
Oh.
plan.
Whoops, all right.
Does everybody else see it?
I can see it, yeah.
I'll try to just bring it up again.
I see a cursor.
Let me go back to it and see if you
Do you
can
see anything else?
No, just, well, it's got Adobe Flash Player. Thank you for using Adobe Flash Player. Adobe will stop supporting Flash Player after December 31st, 2020.
All right, I think we got
Oh,
enough
there-
about Adobe.
Yeah, it looks like you're
That's
Adobe.
Adobe, yes.
Hmm.
Is there
Remind-
anything you can X out on that?
I'll
Like
have
in
to
the
get the
upper right?
technician.
If I might be able to help, maybe you should summons the assistance of Edward.
I will, thank you.
Yeah, let's take 5 minutes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Last question I have, Your Honor.
Okay,
I'll leave it up in case he needs to.
okay.
I think they took 5 minutes, so. Yeah, yeah.